This is K.M. Weiland, and you're listening to the 104th episode of the Wordplay Podcast. I had intended to skip the 100-page edit in my rewrite of The Deepest Breath, since I hadn't added a whole lot of new material since the 50-page edit. But right smack at the 100-page mark, I was struck with an epiphany about one of my characters. This particular character is of the strong and silent make, with a lot of emphasis on the silent part. Despite the fact that I love him to pieces, he's been a hard one to get to know. But I think I've finally cracked the enigma at the center of his personality. After doing the requisite number of celebratory somersaults, I dove into that 100-page edit with the primary goal of tweaking this character's personality to match my new realizations about him. I've been delighted to discover that the first several chapters in particular have come together very well. So, all in all, it's been a very good week. Why nice characters equal no conflict? The latest post in the video series on my blog explains why creating characters who are overly nice can slam the brakes on your story's conflict and momentum. You can watch the video on my blog at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com. New videos are posted every Wednesday. Meanwhile, enjoy this week's podcast. Most Common Mistakes Series Part 7. Is your opening line lying to your readers? Your opening line may be bristling with energy, danger, and barbed fishhooks with which to reel in your readers. But if the paragraph that follows pulls the old switcheroo, your reader is more likely to be irritated than impressed. Let's take a look at an example of a lying line. Jeanette rounded the bend in the mountain trail and came face to face with a huge grizzly. The bear reared up on two legs and bellowed at her. Scary, right? This opening line drags us into this exciting tale because we want to discover what happens to poor trapped Jeanette. Then we read on. I turned another page in the book and looked down at my two wide-eyed children cuddled under my arms. Too scary for you? If you can imagine the sound of air rushing out of a punctured balloon, you've pretty much captured the feeling of anyone reading this story. Sure, the author's opening line hooked us, but it was just a lousy trick. The book isn't even about Jeanette, and she certainly isn't in imminent danger of becoming a slab of meat in the grizzly's mid-morning sandwich. This sort of trickery can take several forms, including the dream. Brett gasped for breath, struggling against the pull of the riptide as another wave hammered into his face. Suddenly, the shriek of his alarm clock yanked him from sleep, and he sat up in bed with a sigh of relief. Just a dream, thank goodness. The joke. When Kelly screamed, Joanna whirled around from flipping the burgers to find her best friend with a vegetable knife and blood all over her hand. Joanna darted forward, grabbing a towel to stanch the blood, but Kelly burst out laughing and started licking the red stuff off her hand. Gotcha, it's just ketchup. The hyperbole. My life is over, Sandra sobbed into the phone. Do you realize what this means? I'm going to have to move to Argentina under an assumed name. Chill, Callie said. So you got a bad haircut. So what? The false alarm. Eric looked up from his class of kindergartners as the fire alarm shrieked through the building and the sprinklers blasted water from the ceiling. Heart pounding, he herded his screaming kids through the fire drill, only to be met halfway down the hall by the sheepish principal. Someone had accidentally set off the alarm. Conceivably, you could make any of these lines work, if the switcheroo isn't a lie, but instead an important example of characterization. For instance, the hyperbole example might be illustrating that Sandra is shallow, self-conscious, and prone to hysteria. But too often, opening hooks like these are constructed for no other reason than to allow an otherwise boring opening to start off with a bang. Take a look at your opening line. Does it fool the reader into believing something is happening when it really isn't? Does the information that follows appropriately build on the tension offered in this first line? If not, you may be lying to your readers without even realizing it. Readers, as the best friend any writer can have, always deserve to be treated with more respect than that. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, visit me on the web at wordplay-kmwyland, that's weiland.blogspot.com, and be sure to listen again next week.